First and foremost, it's a pleasure to be here. Today it's the 7th edition of this conference series, and it takes a different meaning this year. It's an electronic conference, which 7 years ago, what's that? How can you have a conference that's not face to face? And here we are in 2020, where we're trend setters, and the concept of virtual collaborative, I think we've all learned that it can be something that can work, not optimal, but it's interesting now that this conference has taken a new form. And one of the things that it's always done is it's made it more accessible to more people in the world, and that goes with excellent science. So we've always been happy about that for this particular conference. So thanks everyone for being here today, and thanks for the participation. I am Thomas Messervey. I've done some teaching before. I am an American. I married an Italian. I came to Italy. I worked in an industrial, and now I work in a research company, and we're very involved in European research, and we participate in the Smart Cities program. So it's a pleasure for me to chair the Smart Cities session. And there, the mega themes are, of course, urbanization, social aspects, health, city design, urban planning, renovation wave upcoming, and all of these things, traffic management, supply chains, intermodality between transport and supplies and logistics and energy flows, measurements, sensors in this environment, how we can design our cities to be more livable and sustainable and healthy for citizens. So I think in this session today, we have one paper, and it's from, you see her on the screen. It's easy to introduce. It's Rosa Alsina-Pages, and she has an interesting study and paper and presentation because it deals with noise and sound levels, and how sound at the base of it can be healthy or not, depending on the levels, and it can disturb people. And in her paper and her presentation, there is developed a sound mapping of Catalonia using people as sensors, using surveys as sensors, using in part some sensors that were available and some video recordings. And what does that mean? And what do we do after that, the lockdown? I suggest we stop traffic for all time. So with that introduction, Rosa, please, we'll have you share your screen, and I look forward to your presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for this introduction. I will share you my screen with these slides. Yeah, okay. Good afternoon. I'll try to explain a little bit of a piece of this project, which is called s.r.l balcó, which is a Catalan expression that means sounds in the balcony, more or less. And our idea, our goal is to draw a soundscape map of the confinement, of the lockdown in Catalonia. This project has been led by two institutions. One is La Salle in the framework of Universitat Ramon Llull in Barcelona, and we are 5 authors from this institution: myself, Ferran Orga, Roger Mallol, Marc Freixas, and Xavier Baño. And there's also another institution which is also from Barcelona, who is IS Global with Dr. Maria Forester, that has also been leading this project with a vision of health. So what were we doing, these two research teams, when the lockdown came in Spain? We were working also in a joint project, studying about the perception of different types of urban sounds over people. We were analyzing the results of several questionnaires, working with little pieces of sound coming from an European project that we had in the past, which is called the Dynama project, which goal was to map dynamically the noise into Italian cities, in Rome and in Milano. And from that project, we gathered quite a lot of information, quite a lot of raw acoustic data that led us in the future, nowadays, to work not only with these objective measurements, but also with the possibility of asking people, for instance, which of 2 different urban sounds are more annoying for them, for example. And this is what we were doing as research. at the moment of the lockdown. So working from home, all the members of the team, we started asking ourselves why we did not use somehow this huge lab that we were having in the street. You know, when there's a complete lockdown in a country, all soundscapes, at least the urban ones, change quite a lot. In the sense that there's less traffic, there's less leisure, there's less activity in the street, and everybody stays at home, which is usually something that doesn't really happen. Everybody goes to work, to school, and moves around. So there's a change probably in the perception of the soundscape at home on one side for the people, and on the other side, there's also a change in what happens in the street. And if this, we sum up the fact that we could not, as professionals, go out to the street to conduct measurements because it was not allowed. So we decided to look for help in people. So we decided to go for what we call citizen science. So our idea was, we are so interested in drawing this I would say a soundscape map, but in the end, we asked people for videos, so it could be an audiovisual map of Catalonia to know what is happening in the street now that everybody is at home. Because you know that noise, it's one of, it's a health issue. It's not only a matter of measuring the levels in the street, which is important to accomplish the policies, but it's not that the principal issue. The principal issue is its impact on people's lives. But sometimes happen that you do not realize its impact until it disappears or it directly gets lower levels, and then you realize that you were living in a higher noise level at home, at work, or just in the street walking around. So this is the starting point. It's interesting for us because it came out somehow from the position of trying to do research about what was happening in our cities, but we could not. So we decided to ask people. So it's something that it's not a minor issue from our point of view. So which are the technical goals of the project? The first, of course, is to draw the soundscape map of the lockdown, of the confinement in Catalonia, but not using, at least not only using objective sensors data, that on the other hand, we also have, but collecting objective data from people, short videos, and also subjective data by means of questionnaires, asking people how they feel, asking people whether the noise at home is worse, it's better in comparison of the previous situation before the lockdown, and these kind of questions. But also we want to take into account that, as I said before, that noise is a health issue, that the social impact of this project. So we demand dynamic collaboration with other stakeholders, especially in cities, but in the end also in rural areas, in order to create social and environmental impact, with the idea of helping people realize that this is a health issue for them, to widen the awareness and to give somehow some tools to citizens to be more aware of this problem, and to somehow empower them to talk about this and to give their opinion about this, but also, and not last but not least, to support several of the sustainable development goals from the United Nations that are really close to this idea of project. Even the way we have put the project on the table, even education issues for children or for adults that are willing to understand what is happening also in their environment. So what did we do? We designed a socioacoustic survey implemented in line survey, and we distributed it by means of social media, but our own accounts, but also being helped but the official accounts from our institutions, from La Salle and from IS Global. At that moment, they, via Twitter, via LinkedIn, they also asked people in Catalonia, everybody was called to collaborate, to help us in the collection of this data. And we included in the questionnaire sociodemographics, quality of residential soundscape. We asked this to people, but also and overall the individual perception that they felt about noise and several types of noise. So it was not a question about, do you think that the noise is now worse than before the lockdown, for instance? It was also asking about road traffic noise, about railways noise, or leisure noise, which we know that it was clearly decreased during the lockdown due to the restrictions. Or even some people told us that, for instance, in big cities, that they were starting to listen bird song from their homes where they never had, because maybe traffic noise was too loud to allow this propagation. So we tried to ask quite a wide number of things to people, trying also not to do a too long questionnaire, because this becomes a problem when you ask people to collaborate. If the job you ask them is too long, it is also a problem to collect quite a lot of data. And after this campaign during the lockdown, at the end of this first campaign, we managed to collect 366 short videos and their corresponding questionnaires. We are quite happy with the results, not only because there are quite a lot of videos to analyze and questionnaires to observe, but also because we managed to get quite a lot of an homogeneous distribution of data around all the Catalan territory. So this is important, that we collect quite a lot of data of big cities, Barcelona and surroundings, but also we could manage to have samples from small villages, which on the other hand, the soundscape did not change so much. But this is also interesting to see that people answers that, yeah, maybe there's less traffic, but really here in this small village, we do not have a real noise problem usually. So this collecting all kinds of samples in the sense of environment, urban, suburban, and also rural, also makes the problem more complex, but also more interesting, because it's not the distribution of answers, it's not as uniform. So we have a distribution of the size of the city or village here in this small table, the size of the village or the city, and how many videos we have collected from each one. And we have numbers that allow us to draw quite a beautiful map of big cities, because we have quite a lot of samples, but there's more people living there, so it's normal that this happens. But we do also have samples of really small places, less than 500 people living. So this makes, obviously it's not a complete map, but it's quite an homogeneous map that allows us to work with all these locations. And we have here some samples. I hope you can listen to them, maybe not, but I cannot put the video, so I'll just skip this this slide. But the idea is that we gathered videos from places really close to the sea, where we even listen to the sea in the video. It's not only that we can watch it in the video, we can even listen to it, but we also have samples from balconies in the center of big cities, where you can only see other buildings and maybe nothing more than some traffic, but also samples from small streets where maybe there's, despite this can be a city, there's quite silent soundscape around. So we have really diverse samples to analyze, which makes the problem is interesting, but the proposal of analysis is also quite challenging in this sense. So just first results to get an idea of what we got, because we are still analyzing these results. This was one of the first questions: is how would you describe the soundscape in your home? And we asked the opinion before the lockdown and during the lockdown. As you can see, during the lockdown, the sum of answers saying very good and good, it's the vast majority. I would say if we also take into account the average part, the bad and very bad lives just in some punctual situations, which was not happening. If you see the upper part of the figure, was not happening before the lockdown, where there were several people answering that their soundscape at home was very good, and several others saying that it was good, but this was summing up around half of the people. Okay, so the difference, and these are only aggregated results. So I believe that at the moment we put these answers at least into the rural environment, but also the urban environment will be even more clear than that, because it's probably the soundscape that has changed most. So this first figure gives us the idea of what the other answers of all the questionnaire were about. People explained us that the major changes in terms of sound sources was that they had less impact of sound of these sound sources during the lockdown, for example, in road traffic noise, for example, in planes, in commercial activities and in leisure activities. It's quite clear because it's activities that they were closed, but this means that people have noticed this difference between the before and the after this lockdown. More or less equal impact of the sound source during the lockdown is about vegetation, trees, the wind, all these, waters, of course, because water, rivers, fountains, this does not change. Mainly birds, but these birds, it's between this group and the following one, domestic animals and trains that more or less, maybe they were circulating the same way as before the lockdown. And they had more impact of the sound source, sometimes in industry, and we think that this may happen because just road traffic noise was so lower that maybe other sounds appeared, even the industry sounds. Neighbors, of course, if you stay more at home, you listen more to your neighbors. They are also at home, so this is quite logical. Birds, sometimes that they told us that they listen more to the animals outside, and also street works if they were operative. So what are our next steps? We have quite a lot of work in different fields because we have started a detailed analysis on one hand of the answers of the questionnaires, taking into account these separations I was explaining before about social demography, about even I don't know, location of the video, which we have more or less because we asked the people at the place where they were recording, and other issues that can give us much more information about these answers. But also we have started an acoustic and image processing analysis of all the samples collected in order to try to put in relationship these answers with the results of the questionnaire, because it's not the same if you see a video from your balcony where you can see, I don't know, a forest, that if you only can see other buildings, the perception changes quite a lot. It's not only a matter of types of noise and of level of noise. There are other issues to take into account. And we also pretend we have available the values of equivalent level measured in the street in big cities where they have wireless acoustic sensor networks deployed to measure this usually. So they have provided us these values, and we also pretend to compare these objective values with our results in these subjective questionnaires. And we are also analyzing social networks from that period of time in order to collect more perceptual information if there's available. And we also plan a future collecting campaign during what we call now this new normal. We have not launched it yet just because we are not yet in the new normal. We are in a half lockdown now in Spain, so it's not the moment. But there's something more that I would like to explain, that it's not a minor issue for us, that it's other outputs of the project, not only this pure scientific analysis, but this project allowed us to get in touch because several different associations, foundations, and even the public administration were in touch with us. They reached us to ask for the project. s.r.l, for instance, they try to conserve and curate the landscape and also the soundscape, or associations from neighbors, from neighborhoods, citizen science promoting platforms as Barcelona Ciència Ciutadana, or even teachers association interested in the project just to explain in class, because it's quite didactical to help students to understand what is noise, what is a noise source, and how this noise can affect our lives. So this other part of the project, not this pure scientifically view, it's also, we think, an interesting output of the project, which we did not take really into account in the beginning, but we found out that this generated interest in society. So in conclusion, what we can say about this project is that we have a general improvement of the soundscape at home during the lockdown, pending of new results. Our work in progress is in analysis, mainly in analysis, in computer vision, in analysis of acoustic soundscape and others, and also in the idea of urbanistic analysis, the idea of analyzing via the videos, which is the landscape, not only the soundscape, also the landscape of the people that send us these videos. And of course, starting with to work closer with these stakeholders that just came to us interested in this project. This is our picture now. And nothing else. Thanks for your attention. And I would like to thank, of course, all the team at La Salle, but also all the team at IS Global for this work and for the work that we're still doing, because it's a work in progress.
Thank you. And I think it's innovative in several ways. Innovative in terms of, I wouldn't have thought of soundscape mapping, and that's wonderful. And then the second thing is you're locked in and you thought to use people as sensors. That's innovative as well. And the only question that I would have is, you pointed at how you think this could go ahead, but I'm just curious, what do you think is the best pathway to create change or keep this momentum? And I make an analogy to Germany, where Germany, just as a culture, seems to pay more attention to being clean or cleaning up trash off the streets. And if I compare it where I live to Germany, I just noticed that. Or they have laws that you turn off your car when you're stationary. It's actually a law. So I don't know if do you see any way that you can actually turn this into some future where people are more conscientious, or as policy, we do something more about noise?
Well, I think that it's an interesting moment now due to the lockdown, because quite a lot of people, it even appeared in newspapers that quite a lot of people noticed the change of the soundscape due to the lockdown. So somehow it's a moment that people have realized that they were living in the middle of more sound, more noise, I would say, than they thought. So this first part, the lockdown has helped, but of course there's an issue here that has to be approached by public administration and of course by scientists too. That is to explain people, to put examples, to give details, to do dissemination about all this research we are doing, not only this project, all the projects that talk about noise and cities and health. So this is one issue that I think that this idea of citizen science, where the only thing that the citizen needs is maybe a cell phone, you know, to help and to explain their opinion, this may help on one side. But on the other side, in Europe at least, we have the Environmental Noise Directive that has to be accomplished by all cities, mid and big cities. And most of the cities are starting to deploy sensor networks to measure. But nevertheless, I mean, this is to satisfy this policy, the policies, which has to be done. But apart from that, there's also this idea of the implication of people and the opinion of people and the impact on people. And this gap somehow between the policy and the administration and the people is one of the big challenges here. And I do agree with you in this sense. I think that projects that, like this one, that can reach people and are not really difficult to participate in the project, because you ask for a video that you can record with the mobile phone, and you ask for the opinion, which is easy to say, and it's not about equivalent levels, about sound level meters, and about precision. It's about, I would say, perception. So it's probably one of the ways to reach citizenship, easier than the accomplishment of policies that all the city councils have to do, which, by the way, they have to do it, but it's more difficult for people to understand if 65 dBAs it's a lot or it's not a lot. You know, it's
interesting for me because it's something I hadn't thought about or wasn't so aware of before. So thank you. And I didn't offer questions to anyone else. Did anyone else have a question for this presenter?
I have one. Thank you again for your presentation. In your work, you collected videos.
Yes.
What about the privacy issues?
Yes, we ask people, just starting the questionnaire, we ask people to sign that they allow us to use these videos for research. But and we also ask if they allow us to use these videos to show them in a web or in a composition of videos. So they have somehow signed with their consent that we can use that. Yeah, and of course it has not happened. But if some of the videos uploaded would have present some kind of ethical issues, we just would have discarded them. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's not. It was one of the first things that took us quite a lot of work to work this, because we had to make sure that afterwards we could use these videos for our research. So we worked together with the ethics commission of our university to ensure that this could satisfy all the requirements.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Please,
question? Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. What do you mean with the number of locations, please?
Yes, the number of different municipalities. The number of different villages, cities, municipalities. So every place that has their own administrative government, let's say. Barcelona is one, but also other cities or villages. So we counted the different locations and we looked for the number of inhabitants that had all of them, and then we classified, which is the table I showed you before. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you once again, Rosa. And I guess we transition to the third session. Let me turn it back over to.
If it's okay for all of you, I would like to suggest that we will have a 15 minutes break, maybe, so that all of the speakers of our third session today can join. And just thank you, all of you, very much for your participation. And if that's good for you, then see you in 15 minutes.